Lady, gentlemen, start your engines.
And responding to Yale Giesel's command, 27 Indy cars sit on Shoreline Drive in Long Beach, California, as the engines begin to fire. Normally, the speed limit here is 30 miles an hour, but in a very few moments, they will top 185 miles an hour because the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach is about to begin. Ari Lyondike, along with the rest of the drivers, sit ready to go, and we are ready to go racing in Southern California. Nigel Mansell is prepared and ready to run. Nigel Mansell and Mario Andretti, teammates, friends, and at the moment, the key contenders in the Indy cars. The season's first race saw the reigning Formula One champion run pole to checkered to take his first win in his first race. 2 weeks later, in practice, it was a different picture, as Mansell shattered the Phoenix wall, was hospitalized, and would not race. Mario Andretti was left to carry the team colors. He qualified on the front row and jumped to an early lead, hoping to win the 73-race slump. Then Paul Tracy took over and lapped the entire field twice, and then crashed. Emerson Fittipaldi took the lead and crashed. And now, for the first time in 5 years, Mario tasted victory and joyfully took the win and the points lead. The first driver to win in each of 4 decades and the oldest race winner in IndyCar history. Today, it's round number 3 of the PPG IndyCar World Series on the streets of Long Beach. Mario and Nigel have teamed on these streets before when it was a Formula One race, and Mario won. Mario then returned to the IndyCars to win here in '84 on his way to the IndyCar Championship, and again in '85 and '87. But these streets can punish their champions. In '89, Mario led the '88 champ Al Unser Jr., only to be punted aside to make it 2 in a row for Al. Here, the unusual is commonplace, as '86 winner Michael Andretti and Emerson Fittipaldi found out. As did Al Unser Jr., going for his 5th win when he touched with Danny Sullivan. Sullivan went on to take the victory and is back to defend his title in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Have been cleared. It's a beautiful day, and we're ready for the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Hello, I'm Paul Page. There's an electric excitement in the crowd here, and Sam, very definitely an international flavor.
Oh, exactly. 8 out of the top 10 qualifiers were born outside of the United States. The Formula One world champion is in the race. It's gotten to the point where they check your passports instead of your pit passes almost. But a foreigner has never won this race.
But if one could, perhaps it would be Nigel Mansell. But Bobby, he's in pain.
Paul, he is. As we all know, he had a bad crash at Phoenix. His back is hurting really bad, not healed up completely, complaining about his wrist and hands a little bit. Everybody in the pits is looking today. They know he'll go fast, but can he finish?
All right, Bobby, let's take a look at the starting field here. On the pole with a new track record, it is Nigel Mansell. In the second row, or in the front row alongside, is Paul Tracy, who made his IndyCar debut here 2 years ago. In the second row, Emerson Fittipaldi, twice a runner-up here at Long Beach. And Scott Goodyear, the winner of last year's Michigan 500. In row 3, Stefan Johansson with his best start ever in an IndyCar event. And Mario Andretti, a 3-time champion here. In the fourth row, FABI, his first effort at Long Beach since 1990. And Al Unser Jr., the only 4-time winner on these streets. Row 5, Raul BOESEL, the runner-up at Phoenix 2 weeks ago. And Eddie CHEEVER, who finished 3rd in this event in 1991. Now, as we take a look down through the rest of the field, they are already rolling on the parade laps here at Long Beach, California. David Krudrev was originally scheduled to start in the 11th row, but in a warm-up this morning, he had an accident, and the car would not be repaired in time for the start of this race. David Krudrev is otherwise all right. 14 rows, the last car, Jeff Wood, as they now begin to bring their tires up to temperature and their engines ready to go. Bobby Unser, let's take a look at this course at Long Beach.
Paul, this is one beautiful course. About 1.5 miles around, 8 turns down the front straightaway, almost 190 miles an hour.
So that's the circuit here at Long Beach. The field maneuvering behind the Toyota Supra twin turbo, and now ready to roll into their formation. The race record here, 91 miles an hour. Danny Sullivan, the defending champion from last year. The field now beginning to align. At the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, on the pace lap now, the field beginning to align and looking for a green flag. The third race of the IndyCar season is about to begin with Nigel Mansell on the pole, and already there's a problem as Stefan Johansson touched with another car and sits against the wall. Mansell takes the field down to turn 1, but how will they react to this in terms of yellow flags? They've already slowed it down. Yellow flags wave all around the course. Stefan Johansson touched somebody. He's already out of the car, so thankfully he is all right. But as they came around the very tight hairpin that leads to the pit straight here in the start-finish line, two cars got together. We've not yet identified the other, but Stefan Johansson also caught the wall, and look how angry he is. Here's the replay of that situation as they were coming off the corner, Bobby. Just got crowded way to the...
It just got crowded. All it happens is it's so crowded coming off the hairpin turn. Looks like Mario. Yeah, Mario and Stefan touched tires. And you know, especially when they're going that slow, the tires just climb it like they would a rock, climb the other tires.
Stefan had qualified 5th in Tony Bettenhausen's car, so it was a big development in the race.
Here's what it looked like from Al Unser Jr.'s car, that same situation when Stefan Johansson, no, apparently we don't have that, as Stefan Johansson got tapped by Mario as they were coming off the turn. It is a very narrow area.
Now, one of the first things people are going to think about is what is this going to do to the mileage? Well, in fact, they're going to count the laps under the yellow. For the other guy that's going to, here's the...
That's from Little Al's car. Now just look ahead. Perhaps we can pick out the two cars. They are turning into the hairpin. And on the exit of this corner.
And you can see Stefan was on the right-hand side. It came over just a little bit, got way up in the air, almost turned him over, Paul.
So the yellow flags wave all around the circuit. Here the start is aborted, but they will be counting these laps. We'll be right back.
Your hands.
Long Beach, Nigel Mansell leads the field single file. They have completed 2 laps. The first 2, they are under yellow. Now, it has been an expensive weekend for a number of teams, not just Stefan Johansson, who just crashed. We had a series of accidents. That's Scott Pruett as he got into the wall during practice. And then this morning during the warm-up, David Coudray. That's what took that car out of the running, despite the fact it was qualified in the 11th row. And then in practice, Ari Leyendyk. And he got the wall hard. The good news here was that he did have another car available, and perhaps more importantly, that the nose designed to help prevent injuries was working strongly there. Let's go pit side and Gary Gerald.
But Paul, we caught up with Stefan Johansson. Stefan, what happened?
Well, Mario's trying to keep going the outside through the hairpin, and I mean, there's not enough room for 2 cars to go around there. There isn't enough lock on the steering. I mean, you have to use all the road you can to get around the corner. Every car in front did the same, and he's trying to gain places in the first lap, and he's been around long enough to understand that, you know, it's better to get settled down and start the race. And he's shooting me straight in the barrier.
Well, obviously, he's not very happy, Paul. He's making his way back to the Tony Bettenhausen-led pits. Let's check in with Gary Gerald. Gary?
Well, Jack, we're in the Mario Andretti pit. They're happy their driver is still on the course. They're concerned about damage to the car. The only word we have from the crew is that observers around the course are checking for rear wing damage. It does not appear to be anything of a severe nature. So Mario, who won for the first time in better than 4 years 2 weeks ago at Phoenix, still on course, still in the competition here on the streets early at Long Beach.
Remember that last year on the first lap, Mario Andretti was involved in a confrontation on Seaside going into a corner with Eddie Cheever. But it looks that the car is okay, Bobby. I don't see anything obvious on that machine.
No, it really looks good to me, Paul. And Mario is not feeling anything. Otherwise, he would have ducked in the pits already, because technically the race has started and they're under the yellow flag now.
From the moment this track opened on Friday, Mario had fire in his eyes. He was out there first, and he got up to speed first. He's really wanted to succeed here today.
3 laps have been completed under yellow. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Paul, there's a new change in IndyCar rules for this race. It is a pit stop rule. When you enter the pits, you will now be enforced a speed limit. Behind me is a radar gun. There are 4 of them located up and down pit road. The drivers will be allowed to only travel pit road at 70 miles per hour. If they go over that, they will be penalized with a stop-and-go penalty. So this is a new twist. We saw it at Indianapolis last year, but this is the first time in regular IndyCar competition for this type of rule.
So now the field, there is that beautiful Toyota Supra twin-turbo pace car, which will now pull clear of the circuit. And they come to the line single file at this moment, trying to give everybody plenty of room as they come off the corner. And Nigel Mansell will lead that field down as he moves toward the inside. And we are ready to go racing again as that green flag comes out. The rest of the field straggles through and heads for the first turn, with Paul Tracy moving ahead of Mansell as they head into turn 1. Then Mansell, then Fittipaldi. Then a bit of a separation as Fittipaldi got on the brakes early coming into the corner. But now Nigel Mansell is chasing Tracy. I asked Rick Mears this morning, what would he tell Paul Tracy about the start of this race? Should he just lay back and wait for Mansell? And Rick said, no, I'm going to tell him to go for it. So he's following his coach's orders perfectly and pulling out some distance on Nigel Mansell. In third, Emerson Fittipaldi now being passed as a terrific battle, developing for third place as well. Scott Goodyear in there as he comes up now behind Mansell, and Scott Goodyear has been having to handle up Emerson Fittipaldi. But Scott Goodyear firmly in control of third place now. They come to Shoreline Drive. There's Scott Goodyear as he comes onto Shoreline Drive in third place. And here they do get a chance to breathe, a chance to rest. Fittipaldi, then Mario Andretti. So if there were any questions about Mario Andretti's car, it appears to be in fine working order. Here comes Andretti inside of Fittipaldi. Al Unser Jr. closes in behind Fittipaldi as well. Then Teo Fabi in the yellow car. Then Raul Boesel sitting just back a few feet. And already they have to deal with slower traffic. Trying to understand why Marco Greco was in there. He must have ducked in and out of the pits during those early laps. But now they have to deal with the slower car, that number 30 car of Marco Greco. Here comes the challenges. Fittipaldi fighting now with Al Unser Jr. and Teo Fabi looking for position to the out 5. Little Al gets around Fittipaldi. Now Teo Fabi looks for a chance to fight with Emerson Fittipaldi.
Little Al had the fastest speed in warm-up this morning, so he has a setup that is very good for the race itself.
Early battle at the front of the field. Paul Tracy was in front. Then Nigel Mansell, Scott Goodyear, Mario Andretti. Mario has radioed his pits and said that that confrontation on the start was not his fault. But I'm sure, Bobby, that's going to be examined to quite some degree.
It's a place on the track where there's always a problem. If one guy doesn't give the other guy just a little bit of breathing room, those kind of things happen to start here because they go through that hairpin just before the start.
You're looking back from Nigel Mansell now as he has Scott Goodyear filling up his rear view mirrors. They come to a key passing area, but Scott Goodyear decides to sit and wait at this point.
And we've always got to remember, Mansell, remember the crash I mentioned. Is he going to pace himself? Now, it would look right now like he's going to pace himself. He's in there for the long haul. Also, when Mansell comes around that hairpin, he just went through. I want everybody to watch. He has a different groove than all of the other cars that are racing here, even the slow ones. But he's been the fastest guy most of the days.
Gary Gerald, an update pit side.
Well, we get a radio conversation. Mansell happy with the way the car is working. He told the crew, don't worry. He, being Tracy, is just using his tires up. So Mansell apparently is happy to run in second at the moment.
Paul Tracy just dusted off the fastest lap of the race at the conclusion of lap 7, 104 miles an hour leading this race. Mansell is now sitting back about 5 seconds with Scott Goodyear all over the back end of Mansell. There you see the battle as second place goes into the corner off of Seaside. Here's that corner you were talking about, Bobby.
Yes, and these two Lolas, incidentally, one of them, the one that Mario's driving, or that one right there is Mansell. That one and the one Mario's driving, and Scott Goodyear's cars are different Lolas. The underneath part of them, where the ground effects takes effect, are different. They've done some side designing on their own.
So Nigel Mansell, who was so dominant in Australia, now is chasing Paul Tracy here in Long Beach, California, with Scott Goodyear looking strong behind him. And look at Mario and Al Unser Jr. as they go into the corner side by side. Remember a couple of years ago when they didn't get through there quite that smoothly. But little Al now moves around Mario Andretti and picks up 4th place.
Mario not quite as aggressive in defending his position there as we have seen him in the past. Whether he's chagrined by what happened with Johansson or thinking back to his connection with Little Al 2 years ago that you mentioned, I don't know, but he backed off there.
It's too early in the race, Sam, to have a contest like that, isn't it?
Yep, I'm glad they came out of it.
And Al Unser Jr. firmly in control now of 4th place. Mario seems to have settled back. They all must be concerned about fuel economy here, despite the fact that they ran the first laps of the race under yellow. Danny Sullivan, the 7 car, as he comes around the corner in pursuit of Fittipaldi. Just in front of him, Teo Fabi and Bobby Rahal. So 4 cars there in a solid battle now. And it is a fight for 7th place. Just ahead of them is Robbie Gordon. Take a look at Danny Sullivan. And look, here was a car that he had a great deal of trouble with at Phoenix. But Danny Sullivan now surging forward and around Fittipaldi. A good look at the rest of this field coming through. On board Danny Sullivan now. Again, a car that has not performed as well as they would have liked. They've had trouble getting this operation together at Gallus Racing, both for Little Al and Danny, and then they seem to have a breakthrough yesterday. Robbie Gordon, Bobby Rahal, Teo Fabi.
Paul, there's a few of the teams that have not figured out the Lola chassis, the new Lola chassis, the 93s. The Gallus team was one of them, but their big breakthrough, ironically, came after yesterday. They made some changes last night. Both of the cars, Little Al and Sullivan, are going much better today.
Well, they got their cars late among the leaders.
Robbie Gordon with Rahal making a move, but Gordon darts to the inside and slows down. During practice, he had a problem with 5th gear. This gives Teo Fabi an opportunity to charge at the back of Rahal, and around comes Sullivan as well.
Well, you can see Rahal just pull over to the inside, blocking the other guys going into that turn, trying to protect his position there, Paul.
But what happened to Robbie Gordon? He pulls to the side on the straight and then seems to come back up to speed.
Here's the view from behind Rahal's car. You can see Fabi falling back. Here they come, Rahal on the bottom of the screen with Fabi in the yellow car.
No contest as they come off of Seaside and turn back, making that final left-hand turn toward the hairpin. Sullivan closing on the Pennzoil car. That belongs to Teo Fabi. They come onto the straight. Tremendous acceleration at this point.
You notice how Danny Sullivan is really staying in line. He's getting all the draft he can get, trying to get a run right there. Now, he almost made that pass. He didn't make it quite, but he used the draft all the way down that straightaway, then whipped it out right at the very last. And boy, you could really see it on the onboard cam.
So Sullivan tries to make a move on Teo Fabi, can't get it done. Paul Tracy continues to lead this run. Nigel Mansell continues to run in second. Paul Tracy in that 12 car. Look at the lead that he has. We'll be back. Of Long Beach watching Emerson Fittipaldi. His teammate Paul Tracy leads this run. Fittipaldi started 3rd, is now in 20th, and is only about 7 seconds from being lapped. Let's get an update on what his problem might be from Jack Arute.
And Paulie continues to lose almost 6 seconds a lap. The reason? He is down on boost. Not just a little, a severe boost problem. In fact, the team says that they are very concerned. They are going to try and change waste gates, Bobby Unser, in the first pit stop. It doesn't look like it's going to be Emerson Fittipaldi's day.
Boy, you know, Paul, that's going to be a hard one. Those things are running like 1,800 degrees temperature. That's almost white hot. So the guys will have to cool it the best they can, and then the threads won't work on the nuts very well on getting it off. So that's going to be a job and a half.
As they come through the hairpin on the shoreline, a tremendous battle here. Eddie Cheever, Bobby Rahal, Teo Fabi, and Danny Sullivan. You're looking back from Rahal's car right now.
You know, Fabi began racing in IndyCar racing 10 years ago, and I asked him what was different about it, and he gave me some interesting. Here he is. He's defending his line there against Sullivan. The thing he said was the pace is so much hotter than it was 10 years ago, and if this isn't evidence of that idea, I don't know what is.
Oh, I love this fight. As look at Fabi try a different line behind Rahal as they all have to move around Lynn St. James.
You call that blocking. You know, you're seeing more of that today than you ever used to see. You watch as Teo Fabi went down into this turn, halfway or 4th of the way down the straightaway, he already started blocking to prevent getting past. Sometimes the officials have to take a set on that.
All 3 of these men are having their best race of the year so far. Each of them has had trouble coming up to here. Each of them has improvements within the team, and they're having a great run today.
Back once again onto the straightaway. Let's just listen to the gear changes here. On board with Bobby Rahal. As they come down to that first turn again, Sullivan looking for room inside of Teo Fabi. Can't get it done.
Now you can see Fabi was over there so far there was nothing left to pass in on the inside. If Sullivan's going to pass him, he's going to have to get him to stay there and go on the outside. And that noise we're hearing in the engine, Paul, that is over 13,000 RPM.
Eddie Cheever, well ahead of this battle, rides in 7th place now. Ahead of him is Raul Boesel. But this fight continues, and there goes Teo Fabi as he gets around Rahal. And now Danny Sullivan's going to try it to the outside as they come into the hairpin, and Sullivan gets around.
Boy, now that's a hard place to pass on the outside.
Roberto Guerrero, he comes around Bobby Rahal. Rahal recognizes he's slow now and comes offline.
Rahal's got a problem, Paul, because it's too hard to pass there on the outside. So he's got to have a problem.
And now Bobby Rahal in the pits. Jack LaRoute's right there.
And Paul, Bobby Rahal does indeed have a problem. He was complaining that he had a tire going down, so they're going to change all 4, and then they're going to send him back out. That accounts for all those passes in that last lap. Now he's having trouble getting it back in gear. A long stop, and he's off and away.
17 seconds, and Bobby Rahal back into the fight, but he's fallen further backward through the field.
This is an interim car for his team, but they would have hoped to be able to score some points before mid-season when they're able to introduce their new car. So far, they've had only a 6th place in Australia to their credit.
Paul Tracy is still the leader, pursued by Nigel Mansell and Scott Goodyear. Danny Sullivan, you're on board with him now. He rides in 7th.
You know, with Rahal's early pit stop, ironically, he's about...
This is that pass, Danny Sullivan inside of Teo Fabi, Bobby.
This time he got in there where Teo couldn't get down on him. But I started to mention Rahal came in at lap 18, Paul. That's 2 laps less than the window. So he's really in trouble pit stop wise, or it's really going to knock him out of competition.
Already sent his race to an extra pit stop, which could be very costly here. A couple of things as we watch Danny Sullivan to remind you of that could be a key factor toward the end of this race. There's Emerson Fittipaldi in as they go to work, taking the cowling off of the car, and as Jack had indicated, they're going to try to change the wastegate on the turbo, which has a pretty high surface temperature. It's going to be a hard job, Bobby.
Oh, it's going to be a desperate job. But, you know, Roger Penske's theory is we came to race. We're going to race no matter what it takes. And if they had to work on that car for 3/4 of the race, Penske would still have him go back out. And you have to admire him for that.
So they go to work on Fittipaldi's car as Al Unser Jr. goes to work on Scott Brayton. Al Unser Jr. running in 3rd place and trying to stay in contact with Scott Goodyear just ahead of him.
4th place for Little Al coming up to, that's a lap he's putting on Scott Brayton.
Scott Brayton back in the field runs in 22nd place right now.
And if you look at the drivers and you think that they're trying awfully hard this early in the race to do their passing or to get their position, it's because they want to do it when their tires are really fresh. And so as you watch on board Little Al, he's really hustling hard right now.
And we're only on the 20th lap of 105 scheduled, and already they're fighting their way through traffic.
This represents a complete rejuvenation of the Gallus team. You see it being led there by Little Al, but Sullivan is having such a great run, and this is the first time in several races these guys have been moving up as the race develops.
Jack LaRoute's keeping track of things in the Penske pit. Jack?
Well, Paul, the work continues behind me out on pit road on Emerson Fittipaldi's wastegate problem. But look over my shoulder here. That's where they're getting the wastegate from, the spare car that's about 100 yards away. So then they'll sprint forward with it, and as Bobby Unser said, it's a hot potato coming off, but at least they'll have a cool one going on.
A very long pit stop for Emerson Fittipaldi as we take a look at Eddie Cheever battling with Roberto Guerrero. It is a battle now for 8th place. Cheever currently occupies it.
Cheever is a specialist at these road courses that run through cities. He was 2nd at the Detroit Grand Prix. He's been outstanding here through the years, but now you see Roberto Guerrero outbraking him. Cheever locks it up and tucks in behind.
Eddie Cheever gave it every opportunity that he had, but he could not hold on to those brakes, and now he has Teo Fabi to deal with.
That's what I was going to say, Paul. He got in there as deep as he could. He doesn't have to apologize to anybody for that. When you see the tires start smoking like that going in, the guy can't do any more than that.
And right behind the Pennzoil car, Teo Fabi there, is ADRIAN FERNANDEZ, new member of the Gallus team in his first run.
Yes, and Adrian's doing pretty good. You know, he came out of the Firestone Indy Lights last year. Was a very good driver and a constant winner in that.
Got Brayton sitting by the edge of the roadway there in a very precarious position. That'll bring out a local yellow in that area and the very real possibility of a yellow all the way around the circuit. Looks like the fire has gone out in Brayton's car, and they'll have to get, there's the IndyCar safety team out saying, what do you want us to do? What's going on here? And Scott Brayton is going to climb out of the car. So out will come the record. We just mentioned ADRIAN Fernandez. He's a teammate of Al Unser Jr., and he's pulled it off the course behind some of the protective tire walls here. So his day and his first start here with the Gallus team, not as strong as it could be. In the Penske pit, they continue to work on Fittipaldi's car while his teammate is running at the front of the field. Nigel Mansell is second. Scott Goodyear is third. We'll be back after this message and a word from your ABC station. At the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, they'll race anything. Pinewood Derby cars, you name it. They've had a great time with all the race fans and a record crowd here today. This is a terrific battle between Al Unser Jr. and Scott Goodyear for third. But the two key places on the track, as we look at the interval leaderboard here with 25 laps complete, the two key passing areas, the turn off of Seaside that they've just come through, and the Toyota turn number 1, have both had yellows for disabled vehicles. Now, they were getting Scott Brayton clear of one, and it looks like Al Unser Jr. is just waiting for one of those corners to come clear so he can re-engage Scott Goodyear.
Yeah, and unfortunately what we can't, or what a lot of the people can't see, is this entire front straightaway, which is nearly 190 miles an hour, is all under yellow. So there's no sense in little Al, for example, following Scott Goodyear to get in too much of a hurry, because it's illegal to pass right now until they get that car moved off the track.
You know something, you just confirmed something I've always believed. There's some serious damage there on Marco Greco's car. But as look at the work they're doing, they've got the whole back of the gearbox off and going to work on his car. As we came down the main straightaway, I saw a couple of yellow flags, Bobby, from the onboard camera, which just proves that you never see them anyway.
Well, that's about right, you know. Today they told Jack Arute they're going to move the yellow flags back 2 stations. Well, you're talking about the entire front straightaway now that they can't pass on.
But look at Al Unser Jr. now as he's closed up behind third place Scott Goodyear.
Well, obviously, both these men know that the minute the yellows come in, their battle is going to resume full tilt. The best Scott Goodyear has ever done in this race is a 5th last year. The best Al Unser Jr. has ever done is 1st, and he won 4 in a row. So that gives you some idea of the relative experience here. And Al Unser right now looks like the hunter.
Ari Lyndike, he runs 16th. Buddy Lazier should be just ahead of him. Occasionally you catch a view of the Lazier car.
Remember, we saw Ari's crash just back of where we are here now on the track in practice yesterday. He's shaken that off, but he is not having a great season. Many expected a good deal more of him in this car than he's been able to show so far.
Still flags out in the turnoff of Seaside.
You know, Lyndike right there in the Scotch car. There's a team that has Mo Nunn. I think is one of the best engineers in all of IndyCar racing. Came over from England, and he's not been able to figure out the Lola this year. Lyndike, of course, is a very good driver, but they have been somewhat like the Gallus team, unable to figure out the new Lola chassis, although it looks like Gallus team has got it figured out today.
Yeah, because mechanically they have the same thing that Nigel Mansell's got. They're just not getting the same speed out of it.
And just behind that battle that we just saw, here is that ongoing battle now between Scott Goodyear and Al Unser Jr. in a fight for third place. And you can see Emerson Fittipaldi, by the way, from time to time ahead. 2 minutes and 36 seconds in the pits. They make the change on the car, and now it seems to be running with full boost, though he's about 4.5 laps behind the race.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate part of it. 4.5 laps back. Emil may be fast, but it's kind of like he's not going to have a defeatist attitude, but only because Roger Penske is the boss and he says race.
Now that MyJack car there, that's Robbie BUHL, who is sandwiched in between these two battlers for the third position. BUHL actually running 17th. So he gets out of the way and lets Al Unser Jr. come by. Now little Al should not be able to close in on Goodyear by the Toyota turn number 1 here. But by the time they get to Seaside, it seems like they are going to be right on top of one another.
Now, it looks like the track right there in turn 1, Paul, is back to green again. They've got the car moved. So that means we're going to start seeing some passing at the end of the long straightaway, which is one of the better places to pass on this track. On board with Little Al. There's slower traffic ahead and the chance for Little Al to make a pass as they come to the end of this straightaway and make that right-hand turn. Little Al can't do it.
He gets caught behind Ari Leyendijk. He has to move to the inside. He continues his pursuit of
There he
Goodyear.
is, taking Ari on the outside. Remember, when you ride with Little Al like this, you're riding with a 4-time winner and a man who is thinking not so much that he's getting through these guys, but that he's got to worry about Mansell and Tracy out in front of him running 2 and 1 respectively.
The view from the Goodyear blimp over the track here. They scream down toward turn 1. They start down through the gears. There are slower cars ahead. And still Little Al can't get it done.
You know, and as we watch, Little Al's in a Chevrolet. The car on the right-hand side, the blue car just ahead of him, that's a Ford-powered car. I think one of the things we're going to be watching all year is Ford against Chevrolet. Chevrolet against Ford. And as we watch the blimp shot from the Goodyear blimp, you can really see that. Look at this. You can really see what happens to the engines, just the engines. Horsepower down the straightaways.
This view gives you a tremendous opportunity to study the different rates of closures. They both move around Buddy Lazier in the Viper car, and now Al Unser Jr. gets back in contact as they come to the hairpin, and they should have a fairly open straightaway ahead of them if only Little Al can gain enough revs as he comes down the straightaway to get on the back end of Scott Goodyear's car.
Yes, he needs to get a little bit closer to get a good draft. Even though these cars are so streamlined, so aerodynamic, they still need a little help for drafting.
Listen to the gears. Over on Seaside, the battle now develops here between Eddie Cheever and Robbie Gordon. It's a battle for 9th place. Al Unser Jr. for the moment broken off in his fight with Scott Goodyear. This is the hottest battle on the circuit. Right behind Gordon, Theo Fabi and Scott Pruitt. Just got a glimpse of Paul Tracy in car 12, the leader of the race.
We watch Robbie Gordon come off of that hairpin turn with the rear end hanging out. That kid is really trying hard.
Whatever was ailing his car earlier no longer affects it because he's staying hot in the fight. Bobby continues to try to attack him. Let's get an update on what may have been Robbie's situation earlier from Gary Gerald.
Paul, we got a quick word with A.J. Foyt. They had problems with their transmission earlier this weekend. They think they've got difficulty with 5th gear, but they can't confirm it because they've lost radio communication. So double problems. They think it's the transmission that felt Gordon to fall back just a bit.
Mentioned earlier that 5th gear was a problem for him during practice earlier in the week.
But you know, Gary and Paul, I watched him come off the hairpin turn this morning and the car just stopped, literally stopped on the racetrack. So I just wonder if they don't have some sort of electronic problem in the computer system somewhere.
Boy, look at that crowd as they come through the hairpin turn and back onto Shoreline. Scott Pruitt there in the 45 car. There's Mark Smith, who is having a great run in the Indy cars this year, though every time you see that 25 car, know that he was in an accident this week. No, not in the Indy car, but in his go-kart, and really racked up his left leg. And boy, was he in pain yesterday. He's hoping to be able to make the run without any trouble. On board with 2nd place, Nigel Mansell, as he continues his pursuit of Paul Tracy. Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach as Paul Tracy, the leader, has shredded his left rear tire and is limping for the pits. Nigel Mansell will take over the lead of the race. Jack Arut's right there.
And Paul, this is 7 laps earlier than they had hoped to bring the car on pit road. He skids to the stop, and look at the condition of the tire. Jerry Brion pulls it off and puts it back on. This is unfortunate because part of the problem was they had fuel mileage problems in Australia. They had solved them, and in talking to Richard Buck, and now they've stalled the car. He said that this was going to work in their favor. They cautioned early on, and they were stockpiling fuel mileage. That's all gone away now.
19 seconds in and out for Paul Tracy, but he fell well down through the order. Now in 6th place as Nigel Mansell assumes the lead.
When he ran into trouble, he had an 8.5-second lead over Mansell, who you see here. Now Tracy has led 57% of the laps this year going into this race. You see what happened to him here. The left rear tire of Paul Tracy shredding suddenly. That's the back straightaway there. He was lucky or very skillful to control the car and bring it into the pits as fast as he did.
Well, the whole trick, Sam, is going to be, why did it shred? Why did it go bad? Tires don't just blow on their own. So there's a good chance, and that's what we'll have to watch for. They might have bent something while he was blowing or shredding that tire up.
So Nigel Mansell now sits in the lead, nearly 7 seconds ahead of Al Unser Jr. 7 seconds further back from that is Scott Goodyear, and then Mario Andretti is unchallenged another 10 seconds further back from Goodyear. Look at the interval here. We keep track of Mansell and Al Unser Jr. first and second place. And of course, as they come to the pit stops, that interval will be critical.
And also keep in mind, Paul, Tracy came in with that blown left rear tire, but it won't make any difference because he was well within the time frame that he would have stopped for fuel normally. So these guys, even though they have a bigger gap on Tracy now, as soon as they pit, it'll all go back to normal again. And his pit stop was only longer because he killed the engine.
Word from the Penske team is that Paul Tracy ran over some debris that shredded the tire. Terrible luck. He was so strong here, just as he was at Phoenix. This time, though, debris gets him. As we take a look at Mansell continuing to thread his way through this field. And he is having, as one might expect, some trouble from time to time figuring out the slower traffic that he must move through. In some cases, there are drivers that he is not familiar with, and sometimes he just has to be very, very careful and hope that they move out of the way.
Yes, but Mansell has studied IndyCar racing very carefully in the last few months, and he knows a lot about who has done what over the years here, and he must be fully aware that he's got the great master of Long Beach currently closing in on him. I mean, little Al has won this thing 4 times. He knows how to pace himself and his tires through a race like this, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Mansell keys off the man behind him rather than wondering about his own pace.
Part of his studies, by the way, for IndyCar racing is Jimmy Vasser has a problem. They're trying to get him rolling again. He had a little fire and they brought it in the pits, but now on the pit road he's got a problem again.
Vasser, you'll remember, was 3rd just 2 weeks ago in Phoenix, so this is a great disappointment. He would like to have performed well here in front of the LA audience.
I was going to say the way that Mansell studied Scott Pruett in the pits was by looking at videotapes of every race, including every onboard camera he could get his hands on. He's really gone to school on IndyCar racing.
And that's good that he did that, and it shows the amount of interest Paul back. He doesn't realize or doesn't know until he runs with them, but these guys' personalities change often through different types of tracks.
Raul Boesel makes his stop. He was running 8th just prior to coming into the pits.
He was, of course, 2nd at Phoenix 2 weeks ago. One of the quiet men of racing, a real accomplished guy, though.
But what a great race driver he is. Tremendously agile in almost any kind of race car. Former
and this is lap
car champion.
This is lap 39 when all the cars, this is Robbie Gordon in, all the cars are going to have to be coming in the pit. None of them should be able to go past 40 laps.
They look over the back of that car while they refuel it and change tires. No obvious work other than the routine maintenance being done on Robbie Gordon's car. So his first stop here at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach is complete.
It takes a long time to fuel them. It looked like a slow pit stop. Really, it wasn't. It's just that the cars right now at 40 laps are really just about empty.
18.5 seconds, long stop. Danny Sullivan is in now. Sullivan was running in 5th place prior to this stop. And they expect his teammate Al Unser Jr. to come in next time around. So they bring Sullivan in first, get it cleared so this man, little Al, can make the turn in.
And also remember, Paul, that the telemetry that tells the pits when the guys really need fuel. Here's little Al in now.
So Al Unser Jr. comes in for a stop, Jack.
And Paul, this is a scheduled pit stop. They're trying to extend their fuel mileage window. They will change tires, and now it falls off the jack for a second. The air hose not going in properly. They are going to exchange tires, fill it with fuel. They radioed to Al Unser Jr. about 7 laps ago that he could go ahead and turn things up a bit. That means he could expend a little bit more fuel mileage, but he's away. Remember, though, there is a pit speed limit here, and a lot of the drivers are getting real close to violating it.
Well, of course, that's a contest, isn't it?
As they come out of the pits, there is a battle for 3rd place, as Scott Goodyear is sitting just ahead of Al Unser Jr. and may not be fully aware of it. As they come into traffic, Emerson Fittipaldi slides in between them. Nigel Mansell and Mario Andretti have not yet stopped. They have completed 41 laps and run 1st and 2nd as Roberto Guerrero makes his stop. Guerrero was running 7th as he came into the pits, and he rolls back into the fight. But now here is Nigel Mansell making his first stop. Gary Gerald is right there.
Tommy Wirtz will be working the left front. The chief mechanic waves into a stop. The quiet man hits the mark perfectly. He said very little on the radio. He thanked his crew as the race got started for getting him ready to go. He's had little to say since. A quick drink, no wing changes up front, everything looking routine. Mansell off the jacks. We've got him under 15 seconds on this stop.
If you look at the cars leaving, Paul, all that water or that liquid coming off there is actually the water that's squirting on there in case they spill any fuel to dilute the fuel so it doesn't catch fire. So it's water that the people are seeing.
Running in second place at the time he came in, Mario Andretti, Nigel's teammate, in and out of the pits, completing his first stop.
Before the pit stops, Mansell had a 5-second lead over Al Unser Jr., but that margin was being eroded slightly lap after lap. We'll see now with the fuel in the car, the new tires, exactly what the gap will be when it stabilizes.
You watch Mario leave and you saw the stickers on his tires there. That's a rare thing during a pit stop. That's a rare thing on the pit stop because he left the pits with a left front tire with a brand new one. Usually they seat these tires in during the practice sessions.
Nigel Mansell still coming out trying to heat his tires up. You saw Scott Goodyear maneuver into position around him, and Al Unser Jr. is just behind him now as they stream for the line on the pit straight shoreline drive here. And Paul Tracy has been in and out, of course, with that tire and got in and out early, and that puts him in the lead of the race with Scott Goodyear sitting in second place just ahead of Mansell. There comes Scott Goodyear through as we look at FABI. There is Tracy. Scott Goodyear is right behind him right now, and Mansell is just behind Goodyear.
Now that shows that Paul Tracy in the 12th car, Goodyear right behind him. It shows that the pit stop with the blown tire really didn't hurt him.
Well, Mansell's fallen back just a little bit now off of Goodyear. There he is coming through. Paul Tracy at the head of this field, and Scott Goodyear, these two fellow Canadians, now stalking him. We'll be back. Grand Prix of Long Beach, Paul Tracy now being hotly pursued by Scott Goodyear. Nigel Mansell sits in third, but he is a good 3 seconds back. There you see the interval as they come into a very crowded corner. And Paul Tracy coming up behind Teo Fabi, currently running in 10th place. You're looking down. These great aerial pictures are courtesy of the Goodyear blimp Eagle, which is based in nearby Carson. There she is overhead. Today's pilot is Charles Russell. Paul Tracy, the leader, despite having problems early on.
Remember, we are looking at first and second place, two young Canadian drivers.
Going right by Teo Fabi, right there. Teo got lapped by those guys. And Scott Goodyear's in the blue car right behind. And as they come off the turns, the hairpin, which they're going into right now, watch the straightaway speeds.
I was on a plane with Scott Goodyear the other day. He was so frazzled he was late for a sponsors meeting. When he gets in the race car, though, he's one of the calmest of all. And those who monitor the radios, you see him tear by Teo Fabi, who lets him by on the inside there and thinks of counterattacking. But once Goodyear is in the car, he becomes utterly calm, speaks very clearly to his crew chief, Derek Walker.
Here was Al Unser Jr. as he tried to get around Nigel Mansell just a few moments ago. Locked the brakes, almost went off in the runoff zone, got it back under control. Same situation, Bobby, your nephew.
Yes, well, there's the two guys. Here's a in-car cam shot. There's two guys right there that have capabilities of driving deeper in the turns, and I think any other driver, little Al momentarily locked his front tire. He almost didn't make it, but those two guys, it's like two big bull elephants hitting each other head on.
Well, Danny Sullivan was one of the first to break that pit stop speed limit, and they gave him a stop-and-go penalty. And he came in, and then he broke the speed limit again, so they're giving him the black flag again for another stop-and-go. Here's Paul Tracy, the leader of the race, but not by a very wide margin. About a second. Scott Goodyear is behind him and looking for every chance he can.
Tracy looks like he's just a little bit loose in the rear end right now. I watch him as he comes off some of the turns. The rear end twitches just a little bit now. That isn't good because the tires will only get hotter quicker that way, Paul.
And that is a little bit of Tracy's style, isn't it, Bobby? I mean, he has a very aggressive style. When the car begins to slide, he corrects into the slide. I think he likes to drive a car that way, even if it means heating up the tires a little.
Sam, he'll set the car up that way. But if somebody pushes him hard, it just makes the old rear tires get hotter quicker.
Yep.
Paul Tracy looking for a victory. Once he scores his first, I personally think, Sam, he's going to be unstoppable.
Well, there's a big psychological thing in racing. It's very hard to win your first race. And then suddenly, in a way, when you realize that it can be easy. 2 weeks ago at Phoenix, Paul Tracy was 2 laps ahead. He probably could have cruised home to a victory very easily. Instead, he wound up in a collision with another car. Surely, he's benefited from that experience.
Lynn St. James, the number 90 J.C. Penney car, comes in for a stop.
not a happy weekend for her. She qualified next to last, has not really found the speed here that you would expect out of the car and engine combination that she has.
She runs 21st. This is actually her first stop of the race, and she was able to carry that stop to lap 45.
It's a tough track. It's a hard track to come here your first year and do well at it. So I think Lynn's doing well considering everything, and she'll certainly do better next year.
Looking at the race summary at the conclusion of 49 laps. Paul Tracy, the leader of the race, averaging 93 miles an hour. Scott Brayton, the only one officially out at the moment.
You know, at Phoenix 2 weeks ago, luck in many ways was the story of the race. Mario inheriting the race from back in 6th place. Paul Tracy, as you see Nigel Mansell come up very close to Fabi. Paul Tracy, in a way, has luck looking over his shoulder right now. Wouldn't you guys say? Because when he shredded that tire, he was close to the pits. Yes, he used skill in controlling the thing, but if that had happened out at the first turn and he had to make the whole lap with that shredded tire, he wouldn't be in the lead right now.
Two great battles underway as Tracy closes on Goodyear, and here Al Unser Jr. is closing on Nigel Mansell, and Mansell is not showing the kind of attack in the corners he has earlier. Bobby, could he be fatiguing in that car?
Well, he could be getting tired, that's for certain sure. We expect that that's going to happen. This Long Beach track is one of the, look at how little Al is working around here. Now that was at the hairpin. Nigel is the only one that does a different group through that. Watch Nigel. Anytime we see it on camera that he gets in that hairpin. Total different group than anybody else. Might be the Lau's advantage.
Closing rate at a half a second a lap on Nigel Mansell by Al Unser Jr. And we said that that speed limit might affect the outcome of this race. Now they're reporting that they're going to black flag Scott Goodyear for exceeding the speed limit in the pit. So we'll look for that flag as well.
Those kind of speed limits in the pit are tough on the drivers. These guys are so keyed up come race day, they're wired for going fast. Then all of a sudden when they're told to go fast in the pits, it's very difficult. And even though it's necessary to do, it's very definitely hard on them, Paul.
So if in fact they black flag Scott Goodyear, that won't give Paul Tracy much breathing room at all, because Nigel Mansell is just 3 seconds back. Jack Arute, you have an update?
Yes, Paul. Scott Goodyear exceeded the speed limit entering his pit area. That's the reason for the stop and go. An update on the discussion as well as he undergoes the penalty. At the drivers' meeting, it was originally suggested the speed limit be placed at 90 miles an hour. That was agreed to by the IndyCar officials, car owners, and mechanics. The drivers lobbied and succeeded in getting the limit lowered to 70. Now you see what's happened.
Scott Goodyear fell to 4th place on that stop-and-go penalty and still has to come up to speed as Mario Andretti comes up behind him, and that makes this a fight for position. So Mario Andretti has the car that he needs to pass in front of him to get into 4th place. And Scott Goodyear, of course, is on fresh tires, while Mario Andretti's are up to full operating temperature.
Both Lola Fords. Both Lola Fords and the one right behind, same thing.
In previous years here, before they reconfigured the track, the winner often enjoyed a big margin at the end of the race. Now, the last 3 years, the margin has been 1.7 seconds, 3.8, and last year, just 0.6 of a second. So the reconfiguring of this great historic Long Beach track has made a terrific difference. Here comes little Al down the outside.
Al Unser Jr. looking for room.
Whoa.
Comes around to the inside, kind of tries to fake Mansell to one side, and he touches him. He touches Mansell, and you see the suspension drop on the back of Mansell's car. It looks like there is damage there.
A little Al's car. The left front is bent. He's out of the race. Just a little touch like that sometimes bends him completely. That's the same place the little Al touched Mario Andretti a couple of years ago. Same turn.
And an ongoing fight for second place there. Now Paul Tracy does have some breathing room, especially as we have to keep watch on Mansell's car. Little Al climbs out of the car, obviously not injured, but there's damage there. Nigel Mansell may also have damage. We look at it again. Here they come into the corner. Little Al looking for room. He set him up on this. They get together. It's hard to believe that Mansell's car doesn't have a problem too.
Well, it's on the rear. The rear's a lot stronger than the front, Paul. And the thing about it was that little Al should have known that Mansell can't see him. That's in that blind spot of the cars, and Mansell had to be looking to the left. Little Al could have passed him on the outside. The road is just not wide enough.
Well, if it's going to affect Nigel, it hasn't appeared yet. Look at the way that lower control arm, to keep an eye on that, might be a slight bend to that on Nigel Mansell's car. So Paul Tracy is out in front of this run. Now Nigel Mansell is up into second place. And Scott Goodyear comes back up to third place, while Mario Andretti sits in fourth. BOESEL is fifth. We'll be back after this message and a word from your ABC station. Back at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, we are under a full course caution now. Just too many incidents and too many vehicles out on the track. Now here was the situation that set up the final incident that brought us to the full course yellow, as Al Unser Jr. trying to maneuver outside of Nigel Mansell, touched with him. Look at this. He comes right inside. Now he tries to get past. And that bounces Mansell's right rear in the air, but more importantly, it causes damage to the front of little Al's car.
Bobby, I say that Nigel was blameless there. I think he was trying to give little Al as much running room as he could and just couldn't give him enough. What do you think?
Yeah, well, the thing about it is it's a blind place. Little Al was passing him. He was on the outside of him. He was going to try to get him in that right-hand turn, Sam. But the problem was, look at here. Nigel can't see that he's still trying the outside, and Nigel is taking a normal groove. Unfortunately, little Al was there between Nigel and the wall.
This is a corner that has caused difficulties before between 1 and 2 here. Most in particular between Al Unser Jr. and Mario Andretti. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, under the yellow, Nigel Mansell came in for service and an inspection. They changed all 4 tires, didn't find any damage at the back. They made the stop in under 12 seconds. The whole crew here has an opportunity to watch all of this because there's a large video screen right behind their pit. They've been able to see the replays. That helped them ascertain if there was a problem they had to address.
So under the full course yellow, they line up at the moment, Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell. But Paul Tracy picked up a tremendous advantage in that he made a stop for a blistering tire under the yellow.
So I'd spoken of Paul Tracy's luck. That was his third piece of luck, in addition to be able coming in for the shredded tire and then having 2 of his chief combatants knock themselves out of the race.
Let's get a further update on Paul Tracy from Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we can show you the tire itself. This is an unusual type of blister. They were able to bring it in. He had already reported that he was developing a blister, and Roger tried to talk him through a couple of laps. Maybe the Penske luck, and we say maybe, is beginning to change from what they incurred in Phoenix, Arizona. Only time will tell. By the way, Roger is continuing to talk Paul Tracy not only around the racetrack, but with this new pit speed limit. He keeps telling him as he comes in, nice and easy, nice and easy. Remember to go slow on the exit.
Well, the Penske luck is holding in NASCAR right now. The Winston Cup race at North Wilkesboro is now over. And it is, yep, another Miller car. Rusty Wallace finishes first. In second, Kyle Petty. So Penske's having a pretty good day of it with his car here out in front of this field. Now, Scott Goodyear, remember, he got a black flag, had to come in and take a stop and go because of speeding in the pits. They're going to do that again for him, again speeding in the pits.
We think of Roger Penske as being such a dominant force in IndyCar racing, and he is, but remember that his last IndyCar championship was back in 1988. So it's really been quite a long drought, and probably Paul Tracy may give him the best chance for getting the championship this year. So this is really a key race for him if he's going to get started.
So Paul Tracy now answers the green flag with Nigel Mansell just behind. And here comes Scott Goodyear taking that stop-and-go penalty in and out. Billy Camphausen, the IndyCar official on the scene there, as soon as he came to a stop, signaled him back out. But that will be costly for Scott Goodyear since the front of the field was all bunched together.
Well, the McKenzie people could see a win.
Here's a surprise. Bobby Rahal in and out of the pits on what is a green flag start.
That one was strange, Paul. I didn't understand why he didn't stop under the yellow, why he stopped on the green. Didn't make a lot of sense. Unless he had a problem we just don't know about.
Rahal was running in 7th place. Jack Arute?
Well, Bobby, it was a spirited discussion between car owners, Carl Hogan and Bobby Rahal. Bobby wanted a pit. Carl Hogan said no. It was back and forth, back and forth. Lo and behold, the green came out before they settled the argument.
And Rahal was apparently already on the pit road when the green came out.
I've seen that happen before, but boy, that's bad communication.
So there he is, car number 12, Paul Tracy. He's the leader of the race. 2 seconds back now is Nigel Mansell in a car that has taken the advantage of stopping in the pits, picking up fresh tires, and appears undamaged after its confrontation with Al Unser Jr. So Mansell now will begin to stalk Paul Tracy. In 3rd place, it's Roberto Guerrero. Mario Andretti is 4th. Raul Boesel is 5th. Scott Goodyear has fallen back into 6th place.
Now, Tracy has about a 4-second lead over Mansell, and this is where he has got to think himself around the racetrack. not make the kind of mistake or error or whatever you want to call it he made at Phoenix and get caught up in slower traffic. However, here it's almost impossible. You saw him squeezed by Danny Sullivan. It's almost impossible not to be very close and to have to take chance after chance.
And look at Danny Sullivan's right front tire under braking. Now, if you've gone to the standard race driving school and they say you brake in a straight line, then you turn. Look at this,
Tracy ahead of him.
Coming in, and Danny Sullivan right behind him. Why is Tracy back in? More blistering? Our tires a problem, Jack?
Left rear.
Absolutely, Paul. A left rear flat tire. So there must be some debris still out on the racetrack because this is another tire problem.
Oh, Paul Tracy comes in, picks up a tire off the lead of the race. He does it in 11 seconds, but of course it gives the lead to Nigel Mansell.
Well, that just goes to show you, you can't count on anything in racing, and you certainly can't predict it. That was really tough luck. That's more like the Penske luck we've seen recently.
So we ride with the leader of the race, Nigel Mansell. Remember, he is in terrible pain still from his accident in practice at Phoenix, Arizona. In fact, he's had a terrible time just trying to climb in and out of the race car during practice and qualifying here, and in fact cut short one of his practice sessions by nearly 20 minutes just because it was so uncomfortable.
This is an incredible opportunity for Mansell, as you see Buddy LAZIER there in the pits, for Mansell to pour it on. He's got a clear run ahead of him on the track, no traffic. He could gain several seconds because people, his pursuers are doing this kind of thing. Look at Robbie Gordon.
Robbie Gordon with the right front shredded off the rim of his car as he comes down to the A.J. Foyt pits. He was running in 12th place, but why? Well, watch this. Watch him with the 99 car.
Boy, you certainly can't brake very good. You notice that right front tire just quit, or the wheel quits turning. There's no tire left on it.
There you are as he comes alongside Eddie Cheever. Cheever moves out on him. Whoa.
Cheever moved down on him, left him no place to go there. Boy, that was really close, Paul.
So Robbie Gordon with fresh rubber now back into the fight. But again, it has had an impact on his position as he drops to 14.
These are some of the unpredictable things that we always see here at Long Beach.
We should probably clarify this pit rule of a speed limit in the pits. Once they get past the last pit, which is occupied by Newman Haas, the last pit specifically is Nigel Mansell's, then they can go ahead and take up full throttle.
Buddy LAZIER is getting a wing change on the car. They're working on the back. It's either a wing change or they're working on the transmission. It looks like a wing.
Roberto Guerrero. You see him there, the 40 car. He sits in second place. His adversary, Mario Andretti, is right behind him.
This is a real renaissance for Roberto Guerrero, driving in his first full season in many, many years since his terrible concussion and the long time he spent unconscious after his crash in Indianapolis. You see him ripping by Lyondike handily there. He lives in nearby San Juan Capistrano, and of course that means he's commuting to here from his home, which is always great. He's having a wonderful show.
Driving for the great drag racing champion, now a top fuel driver, Kenny Bernstein,
who's here this weekend.
Kenny has all kinds of race cars. The drag racer he drives, Winston Cup car, and an Indy car. Mario Andretti now comes around Arie Luyendyk, resumes his pursuit of Roberto Guerrero. The leader is still Nigel Mansell. You're on board, Luyendyk. Watching a rather rapidly disappearing race here as he tries to play catch-up. Luyendyk in 11th place. If the drivers at this point could look up to the right, they would see some tremendous new construction here at the Convention Center in Long Beach. They're building once again, and much of that can be ascribed to the success of this race because they have tremendous reconstruction in their downtown area, and this event has certainly helped put Long Beach, California back on the map. So Nigel Mansell is the leader with Roberto Guerrero now running in second place, and Mario Andretti still in the fight in third.
The Toyota Grand Prix is brought to you by Goodyear, #1 in tires. By your local Yamaha dealer, who invites you to see their exciting line of motorcycles, ATVs, and water vehicles. By Sears Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools made in America. And by Armor All. There is a fountain of youth, and we own the patent.
Back Back at the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, where Nigel Mansell is still the leader here, followed by Roberto Guerrero. Don't forget, coming up next month, ABC Sports heads to the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, for the greatest spectacle in racing. Saturday, May 15th, we'll begin live coverage of the Indianapolis time trials. And then on May 30th, it's the Indianapolis 500 live next month here on ABC. Unser Jr., the defending champion there. And the Speedway just this week announcing that there's going to be 2 great races for you in 94. On August 6th of 94, the Brickyard 400 for NASCAR, the Winston Cup cars. The phones were flooded at the Speedway, like 70,000 calls, asking about seats and everything the minute that they made that announcement. Let's go to the pits.
Al, obviously great disappointment. Tell us what happened as you battled for that position.
Well, Nigel and I, we were running together, and he's just blocking very, very well, I guess, you know. And then I got him. He got a little bit too much blocking me on the inside going into turn 1. Put him on the outside of turn 2 entry, and it screwed him up a little bit. I was set up for it, and I did him on the outside. And then when we came off at turn 2 exit, he squeezed me against the wall.
Did you think you had him cleanly passed?
I had him covered. He knows exactly where I am when I'm behind him, but as soon as I got beside him, he lost where I was. So, which is BS. The guy, you know, what can I say?
All right.
We'll handle it.
Thank you, Al.
Al Unser Jr., his first DNF here at Long Beach since 1985. Pretty disappointed, Bobby.
Yes, I know he's very disappointed. You know, they've had such a hard time getting that car work. The whole Gallus crew, they're all going to be so disappointed, along with little Al, because it's the first time this year they've had anything fast at all.
Yeah, but if it's working here, how's it going to work at Indy?
Well, what they've learned here will help every place, because they've been so far behind, non-competitive at Phoenix by a long way. This is definitely a step forward for them.
Nigel Mansell now leads Guerrero by about 7.5 seconds. Oddly enough, that is the biggest lead that we have seen in the last 30 to 40 laps.
Behind Mario Andretti there is Eddie Cheever and Scott Pruitt, a battle for 9th place. Raul Boesel, who runs in 4th place right now, is trying to catch up to Mario Andretti. But he's got that other battle in between him, and those 2 guys aren't going to let up.
Of course, Boesel was 2nd and Andretti 1st at Phoenix 2 weeks ago. So this race, in some ways, although very different, is starting to shake out with maybe headed toward the same sort of result.
You see Emerson Fittipaldi, there he is in the midst of all of this. Remember, he's about 4 laps behind the race. Early on, they changed the turbocharger component, and as a result, he had a long pit stop. Boesel now is trying to work his way forward as he splits up Scott Pruitt and Eddie Cheever and tries to chase Mario Andretti.
Boesel's been a guy that we've been watching all weekend, Paul, that's really been fast through some of the turns, really fast during the day at the end of the practice day. He's been struggling all of this race trying to get up. He's always there, but not quite having any luck going along with it. He's in the golden brown car right there, the number 9 car.
71 laps of the scheduled 105 lap distance, 167 miles, as Robbie Gordon in the midst of all that in trouble again, and he touches Cheever. Then Fittipaldi stacks the brakes, so does Pruitt. And Ari Lyondike comes to a stop in this turn. Is badly crowded now. They'll have to take incredible care. Yellow flags, I'm sure, flying all the way down Seaside. You can see these course marshals here. By the way, the course marshals are all volunteers, and they take incredible chances to try to keep this race going. They're here all week, and they do a magnificent job, as you see they're doing now. Lyondike trying to get going, looking for help. He needs somebody to push him forward so he can get back into the run.
We just sat here and we can grunt for him, you know. I mean, he needs to get going. Unfortunately, this hairpin turn is so narrow and so hard to get through.
Here comes Mansell.
The tracks get blocked.
Mansell comes in, tries an inside line very carefully through the corner. Of course, the yellow flag is there, but still there's plenty of debris down there, and those cars are in the way.
And you know, one of the biggest problems, Paul, is like you said, they don't want to run over anything.
So with lap 72 complete, Nigel Mansell heads for the pit area. He runs in the lead of this race. Gary Gerald, you there?
This is a real bonus for Nigel Mansell and the Newman Haas team, because, Paul, they made that last stop at lap 58. That meant there were 47 laps to go to the finish. Not enough fuel to do it. Now they'll get the complement of fuel. He won't have to go any further as we go to Jackaroo.
Well, Gary, they also completed a stop here with the Roberto Guerrero car who was running in second. Let's check in with the dragmaster himself who runs this team, Kenny Bernstein. Now, can you run full fuel till the end?
Yes, we can. We're in good shape. Can't say enough about the Budweiser team. What a great job they've done.
They're going to go full open from here on in. Paul?
In the meantime, on the track itself, it looked like Mario Andretti, as we've got an injured crew member there, we'll keep track of this, looked like Mario Andretti, the yellow flag flying on the whole course, past Nigel Mansell coming out of the pits. Look here. Here is Mansell coming out. But watch as he comes out for a second car, and that's Mario, and he passes him. So Mario Andretti comes around Mansell, and these stops were made under the yellow, but remember, that doesn't matter in the pits. So Mario Andretti is now lined up in front of Nigel Mansell. Scott Goodyear lines up in third. We'll be back. Long Beach full course caution, one of the other great races during the weekend here at this entire festive event is the Toyota Pro Celebrity Race, which was run yesterday, and Sam Posey reports.
All right, see, what we're going to do is we got each other's back, right? We're going to be drafting back and forth, back and forth. Lap 9, I win.
Olympic star Mary Lou Retton led the pre-race calisthenics in her own special fashion. And then it was off to the races. 16 Toyota Celicas equally matched except for the drivers. Mary Lou showed both driving ability and guts as she outbraked Cuba Gooding Jr. to take the position. And then the wheel banging began. Crystal Bernard wished she could have sprouted wings to escape drag racer John Force as he pushed her forcibly aside. Then Mary Lou made ex-raider Bob Golick feel like a quarterback as she sacked him into the tires. Radio host Sean Parr and John Queen both wanted the same piece of track. Neither got it. When the checkered flag flew, it was motorcycle great Eddie Lawson who added another title to his collection. Inside Editions, Rick Kirkham won the celebrity division. Kirkham showed that he was a pro when it came to working the champagne bottle. In a wild podium celebration, the bubbly bubbled over.
I started out great. I started out wonderful. I passed two people. I passed Cuba and I passed Steins, Mark Steins, on my second and third time around, and then I just played demolition ping pong ball there after turn 2. I don't know what lap it was. Hit the wall, hit the other wall, and hit the wall again 3 times. But I kept going.
And one of the stars, the pros this year, is the star of the great hit show on ABC, Coach Craig T. Nelson. 1 week a pro, 1 week an amateur. What are you anyways in auto racing?
I don't know what I'm doing. I should go back to coaching, I think, the way I'm racing. I mean, it's terrible.
Now, we understand that there's some great new draft choices, people that you signed for coach in terms of athletes. Now, what's the story on Minnesota State for next year?
Well, we're not violating any NCAA regulations, but by God, we're going after the best there is in high school football. And I got a line on a couple guys. I think we're going to the Patriot Bowl next year. Olmeyer, Patriot Bowl. Going to be big.
Paul?
All right, Jack Craig T. Nelson, who has become a... Well, he's not just running the Toyota Pro Celebrity. He's got a team of his own right now. So we are under a full course caution, and Paul Newman keeping track of both of his cars, Mario Andretti and Nigel Mansell. This is what caused this full course caution, as Robbie Gordon got to the outside and then got into the side of Eddie Cheever. Raul Boesel dodging a bullet there, and Fittipaldi and Pruitt and Arie Luyendyk all chalking up the brakes behind him. This is the look from Arie Luyendyk's car as he just slapped the brakes. Paul Tracy is the leader of this run now as we come back to green. He's led 203 of the 341 laps available this year. He continues his lead, but now tacked right on his back end is Mario Andretti and Nigel Mansell as they both maneuver for position. And Fittipaldi not a factor back there. He's several laps behind the lead.
And remember, the big change, Paul, was during the pits, and the people that didn't see it, as Mario beat out the guy right behind him, number 5, Mansell, out of the pit. Mansell had no idea that that was going to happen.
Mario, in a sense, ambushed him, I think, as he was leaving the pits, the only place he could overtake him. Now Nigel is going to have to do the overtaking under green out on the racetrack. You know, they're teammates, but they're very aggressive men with an awful lot of pride, and there's no team orders that one driver or the other should win the race. They are racing for the victory individually.
So Fittipaldi in that 4 car is not a factor. He is running in 16th place, but the rest of these cars are all fighting at the front of the field. Tracy, followed by Andretti, followed by Mansell, by BOESEL, by Roberto Guerrero.
And one Chevrolet leading it, 2 Fords following it. The same team right there. Mario Andretti, Mansell on your left. They're trying to outbrake him going in.
Mansell, who is incredible at running down on the inside of the racetrack, slapping those brakes, riding the brakes all the way to the corner. Scott Pruett takes a stop-and-go penalty for speeding in the pits. Excuse me, they have changed that now. We had one of his crewmen that was injured in the pits, not yet identified to us. And this stop and go was a result of leaving the pits with hoses still connected. And we'll try to get an update on his crewman as well, let you know what happened there.
That's a new team. Maybe the guys just aren't experienced enough together right now, because, of course, the driver always wants to leave in a hurry, and I think that's what happened, Paul.
Watching at the front, no change in the order, though Rahal is closing in on Roberto Guerrero.
This is a very fraught situation because Nigel Mansell's been a little bit faster than Mario throughout much of the day, but he now must get by Mario, and Mario is very aggressive at defending himself on a course like this.
I think we can easily assume that by now we're not too far from the end of the race, and Mansell is very tired and very sore from his injuries in Phoenix. And it kind of looks like he's not as aggressive as he normally is.
Battle for 5th place, the 40 car, Roberto Guerrero. Rahal right behind him. Goodyear just back from Rahal. 5th, 6th, and 7th. There's BOESEL also in the fight as well, just ahead of Guerrero. All 4 of these cars in contest with one another, just ahead of them, Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, and Paul Tracy. So at this point, now with 80 laps complete, 105 the scheduled distance, it still could go to anyone because the battle is all sitting on one straightaway all together. The leader, of course, is Paul Tracy as FABI comes in and out. This is a stop and go for a speed violation in the pits. He moves back into the fight. He's running 8th. So Paul Tracy has had some pretty good luck so far in the running and remains in the lead. But will Mario and Nigel catch? We'll be back after this message and a word from your ABC station. Overhead, the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, the Goodyear Blimp Eagle based in nearby Carson. Many thanks to our friends from Goodyear for providing some really great aerial shots that show you some good relationships in the cars on this course. As you look down now on the streets of Long Beach, that's the combination that leads to the hairpin. And there is the hairpin, and take a look at the gigantic crowd that is here. Every seat is filled. An event that enjoys tremendous success, and like we said, it's starting a very special electricity here.
Paul, the Ford people, a lot of competitors have said that car right there, the Chevrolet-powered cars have had problems getting off the corners. I listen to Paul Tracy as he comes off the hairpin. They've got the Chevrolets running. He buries the throttle about the middle of the turn, and it just jumps off.
Nigel Mansell taking a slow run down shoreline, and several cars, including BOESEL and Rahal, get past him. Gary Gerald?
Nigel just was on the radio, we're told, saying it's rough as anything. We're assuming he's talking about the engine, the crew very concerned.
So Nigel Mansell, who was looking so strong, chasing Mario Andretti, now he is not.
Well, you know, Nigel Mansell, of course, has been compared with Michael Andretti this year, and Michael is having a lot of trouble in Formula One. You saw Carl Haas there, Mansell's car owner, but as Michael tries to deal with unfamiliar courses over there and is having trouble, remember that when Nigel dealt with an unfamiliar course here, i.e. Phoenix, he had a major crash. So what I think it proves is that both these series, both Formula One and IndyCar, are very, very tough for newcomers, no matter how good you are, and both these men are terrific.
Let's listen to Nigel's engine now as he approaches the Toyota turn, turn 1.
cylinder, and the engine has probably dropped a valve, just hasn't gone through a piston or into the water. It's really running bad. He has no power.
Nigel Mansell's fallen to 6th place.
Yeah, back to 6th, where you don't score a lot of points.
At the front of the field, it remains Paul Tracy with Mario Andretti now in pursuit. But let's not forget 2 weeks ago at Phoenix.
Now, Nigel will stay in. There's nothing left to do. They've probably already done a lot of damage to the engine. He'll just stay in as long as he can finish the best that he can finish.
You got a glimpse of Mario Andretti. Now Bobby Rahal making a move on Raul Boesel. This is a battle for 3rd place. He can't get past him there in the first corner. Andretti chasing Paul Tracy. He's 2.5 seconds back from Tracy.
This is turning into an outstanding performance for Rahal. I don't think as the race began he could have hoped to do this well. Suddenly, as you said, he's menacing for 3rd.
And Paul Tracy's average is climbing steadily as we continue to watch this battle with Rahal and Raul Boesel for 3rd place. Despite 2 full course cautions, the average speed of the race is 91.247 miles an hour. The record is 91.945. So Tracy may be running on a race record here very shortly.
Well, you can watch right there. They came off of the hairpin turn. There's Rahal. We're on board with Boesel right ahead of him. And look at the way Boesel jumped ahead, getting off. Now we're in the drafting with Boesel. Here's Rahal going to the inside. He can't even get close enough to try a pass on Boesel there. Not enough straightaway speed.
Rahal's car, of course, is the True Sports car from last year. His team, along with Gall Hogan, has taken over the development of that car, and they are now seeing basically the best performance it's ever had right now.
So that battle continues. Paul Tracy continues to run about 2 seconds ahead of 2nd place Mario Andretti. So now with 87 laps complete, Paul Tracy may have his first win. At the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, we continue to watch this battle now led by Boesel around Rahal. And Boesel sits in 3rd place. Mario Andretti just ahead of them in 2nd. Paul Tracy leads it. But that brings up an issue of fuel and Paul Tracy's last stop. Paul Tracy stopped 29 laps ago. Bobby, what do you think? Can he make it to the finish?
Paul, according to my figures, he would have to get too good a gas mileage. Well, look at Rahal working Boesel there. But according to my figures, he can't make it. Now, if he's got enough speed where he can short shift the thing and turn the boost back, which it doesn't appear that he would have, I just don't see how he's going to make it.
Well, Jack Arute is a little closer to that situation being in the Penske pit. Jack, what do you think?
Well, Paul, right from the beginning, when he had that shredded tire, they determined that the only way that Paul Tracy could win the race was in order to stay out as long as possible. They have told me they are not going to pit again. They feel that they stockpiled enough fuel early on that they can go the distance. Now remember, in Australia, it was Emerson Fittipaldi's teammate who was in a similar position trying to chase down Nigel Mansell. They only discovered after Mansell ran out of fuel that they had 4 gallons of fuel left in the tank, left in the car itself. They have gone to work since then. They changed computer chips for readout. They're much more accurate now in terms of fuel consumption. They are very confident behind me that they will not be back in the pits again today.
And you do have to remember, too, that the Penske team had 2 cars damaged at Phoenix. They've spent almost the entire time, in fact, all of the time since then, rebuilding cars, cannibalizing one from the other, just to come here with 3 machines. So they haven't had a whole lot of time to address their readout problems as they suffered on fuel early in the year.
Yes, and also remember their telemetry wasn't working right in Australia, but it's working good now. So they're seeing in the pits what Tracy's doing. Tracy doesn't really have to know it.
Lap leaders thus far in the race, Mansell early on, then Tracy, powerful after that. And look at Tracy to the lead now here on the 92nd lap, 105 laps the scheduled distance.
If Tracy, of course, has to pit or runs out of fuel right at the end, that, as things are going right now, hands the win to Mario Andretti, duplicating what happened in Phoenix 2 weeks ago. That makes this battle currently for 3rd, a battle for 2nd, and it looks as if Rahal has just swept into that position. It's 3rd now. It would be 2nd were Tracy to run into trouble.
Rahal under and around Boesel picks up 3rd place for the moment. But as Sam suggests, if Tracy is in fuel problems and has to come in, he only has 4 seconds on 2nd place Mario Andretti. He can't possibly get in and out in that 4 seconds. And that would hand the race over to Mario as the leader.
Remember, Rahal is the defending national champion, IndyCar champion. He was second in this race last year en route to his championship. He did not appear to be a strong contender at the beginning of this race, having qualified back in midfield. He has come through, avoiding quite a few incidents along the way. He's been very close to trouble, but has not struck trouble. And right now, he is giving his team its best performance of the year by far.
You know, he's one of the cars, or they're one of the groups that have got their car working a lot better on race day. They weren't this good yesterday or the day before. The Rahal's got the car figured out a little bit better than it was before.
And remember, it's the only car of its kind in the race. And of course, what the opposition has to fear is that Rahal's team, especially if they improve on this car with their car they're bringing out at the middle of the season, if they have a really good piece there, they're the only one that has it.
Sam, it's the only American-made car in the race.
And that, in fact, is what both Carl Hogan and Bobby Rahal, the two owners, are quite proud of, and something they want to continue. They're also hoping to make their hometown of Columbus, Ohio, kind of a center for motorsports. Car off the edge of the course, and it is Mario. Mario Andretti sits off the edge of the course. He was running in second. His daughter, Barbie, disappointed. Mario was going for 2 in a row. We have no idea why he's sitting by the edge of the course with the engine shut off. Could it be fuel? Not likely. 21 laps ago was his last stop.
Now, obviously, it's going to be some sort of a power, either the engine or the powertrain, because it just quit completely, and he didn't coast very far with it, Paul.
Mario waiting for assistance from the course marshals. Gary Gerald, you're in that pit. Can you give us an update?
Well, the one word we heard, they believe it's electrical, Paul, and it looks like it's a terminal problem, and the man who was leading the points chase trying to get 2 in a row sits on the side.
And Carl Hogan now has that information. Obviously, they're discussing the fact that they think Paul Tracy's going to have to stop. And if he does, then that will turn the lead of the race over to Bobby Rahal. Let's go back to Jack Arute. Jack?
Well, Paul, when they heard what happened there, they radioed to Bobby Rahal, take it easy on fuel. They don't believe what we're hearing from the Penske pit. They think that Tracy is going to have to pit one more time. They want to make this an economy run and maybe go to victory lane.
Well, also, Jack, Rahal is 14 seconds back. So there's probably very little chance, no matter how hard he went, that he could close that gap on Tracy. So they're doing tactically the superior thing right now.
But that interval, Jack, is not the key interval. As you see him on the straightaway, you'll notice that BOESEL is only 2 seconds back from Rahal. So there's still a battle developing there. Jack, back to you.
Also, Paul, add to the fact that before that last incident, they were having a problem with their radios. They being Bobby Rahal and Carl Hogan. Someone had left a key depressed, and they couldn't talk back and forth. In all the excitement about Andretti, they got the key fixed and they were able to talk.
So some luck turning Bobby Rahal's way. But Paul Tracy's still in control of this race.
Rahal talks very little, though, on the radio. Obviously, there are critical information exchanged between him and the crew, but he is not one of your real talkers on the radio.
Well, you know, we still don't know who's going to win this race, whether it's going to be Paul Tracy or Bobby Rahal or either one. This has been the most unpredictable race I've seen in a long time. But some of these cars, this one right here, Bobby Rahal, this is the one that may run out of fuel right there. But Bobby Rahal has certainly got his car working a lot better.
Now with just 8 laps to go in the run, there is Bobby Rahal as he heads down to turn 1, the Toyota turn. And Paul Tracy has picked up the average above the track record. You see the closing rate between Rahal.
Well, you can tell that Tracy has cut back on his power or the fuel that he's using as much as possible. But here's the guy, Roger Penske, that is really the thinker in the team.
Running at an average record speed at 92.416 miles an hour, with Bobby Rahal in pursuit of Paul Tracy, and Raul BOESEL is chasing Rahal. We've got a great race here. Some of the other activities here at the Toyota Grand Prix weekend in the Convention Exposition Center here at Long Beach. A great display of all kinds of cars, including a big top fueler. But we've had some action on the track in the past few seconds. Scott Goodyear is afoot now. He brushed the wall, damage to the left front wheel, and that took him out of the race. Look at that.
Well, those are magnesium wheels. They just won't take that. You can see just instantly lost the air. The tire has no adhesion to the ground. Pulls over and stops right close to pit entrance. It's really sad. Scott just missed it. Look at this. Boy, just, you know, it's so hard when you come out there. It's slippery right now. Just boom, right into the wall.
So Scott Goodyear brushes the wall, takes him out of a key attack position at the front of the field. Nigel Mansell now moves up as a result of that situation and sits in fourth. Roberto Guerrero is in fifth. Debbie Rahal keeping track of her husband, currently in second. 7.6 seconds behind Paul Tracy. Now, Paul Tracy has been running much slower laps the past several. He's only been running laps at about 100 miles an hour. He's obviously trying to save fuel, eh, Jack? Jack Root?
Paul, what they've done is they just radioed to Tracy, go to 5 o'clock. That's the fuel setting. They are going to go into full conservation now. They feel, as we've said before, that they can go the distance, but they're going to have to do it with as little fuel as possible.
It certainly looks as if Rahal may have changed his mind about the pursuit. There's Carl Hogan, his co-owner, a great, you really know what's on Carl's mind. But I think the situation is that the harder Rahal can press Tracy, the better chance he has of making Tracy run out of fuel. Now, I talked earlier about Tracy's luck. He's been lucky so far in this race. He now needs a huge gob of it and some fuel in the tank to make it through to the end.
You know, as you watch Carl Hogan, he's really happy. He's sure that he has it figured out, that Tracy's going to run out. Then you look at Roger Penske, and you see the poker face that he's got. He's looking at the telemetry.
What are they thinking down in the Rahal Hogan pits? Let's go to Gary.
Carl Hogan, can you catch Paul Tracy at this rate?
No, I don't think we can. We're going to be lucky if we run out. I mean, we run through the race with the fuel. We're right on the button, so we're pretty happy where we are. We're just trying to make sure we maintain second at this point.
All right, thank you.
All right, good.
Carl Hogan loves to race. There's his driver and his partner. But they are doing everything they can. They're charging. I'm not so sure I believe what he said. I think they've got a chance.
I don't believe it either. Remember that they won the IndyCar championship last year in their first-year team together.
And BOESEL slows down. Now, is this an indicator of anything? BOESEL slows down, sitting in third place. But what I'm wondering is he out of fuel?
It has that look.
And if he is, what does that say about Tracy and Rahal?
Well, we're back to the telemetry. All the new modern stuff is computerized. They all tell the pit crews everything is happening. But it doesn't always read right.
Could this provoke a yellow, which would shake things up? Here comes Rahal.
Paul Tracy sitting 7 seconds in front of Bobby Rahal as we watch for the white flag.
You can see how straight Rahal comes off the turns. Look at how easy he's going through here. He's conserving also. It always comes down here at Long Beach to fuel at the latter part of the race. Seems like it never changes.
Paul Tracy right now is closer to winning his first IndyCar race than he has ever been. You get the feeling it's something that's going to happen if there's just enough fuel left in that tank.
And Rahal has come by the start-finish line very, very slow. He picks up speed now as he heads down into turn one. There's Paul Tracy, the 12 car. He is so close to a victory, and I'm telling you, once he wins, he is going to be very hard to catch. He fell off a mountain bike that he was playing with earlier in the week. His hands are cut and bruised. His right ankle is very sore. He was icing it down heavily yesterday, but I don't imagine he feels any of that now as Paul Tracy on his final 3 turns, and he will look at a checkered flag if only he can make it here through the hairpin in safety. Paul Tracy makes a turn onto the straightaway. The checkered flag will lie just ahead, and Paul Tracy has finally done it. He wins an IndyCar race. Paul Tracy becomes a champion in the IndyCars, the 10th different driver to win in a Penske car, and Paul Tracy has done it. Bobby Rahal comes across the line in second place, but very slowly. Here he goes as he came well off of the pace. Nigel Mansell should cross the line in third. And it's a celebration in the Penske pits. And Carl Hogan's pretty happy about it as well. Pretty good celebration for second. We'll be back to talk with the winner of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. One very terrific run.
Tracy, welcome to IndyCar Victory Lane. You're first.
Well, it was a credit to the Marlboro team. We had 2 flat tires during the race. I just can't even believe it. You know, we just fought back all day, ran strong with the Marlboro car. You know, I have to, just thank the crew for that one. They did the job, got me in and out of the pits real well, and I got to thank them.
Adds new meaning to patience. I bet you learned one here.
Well, it's, we stayed in there all day, and, we ran it, and I'm just happy to be in the winner's circle.
Paul?
So Paul Tracy takes his win. Nigel Mansell finishes in third and takes the point standings by 4 points over Mario Andretti, his teammate. Paul Tracy is the winner of the race here in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Bobby Rahal second, Nigel Mansell third. Teo Fabi comes home fourth, followed by Roberto Guerrero and Robbie BUHL. It has been one terrific day here in Long Beach. A tremendous race, and Roger Penske's team comes out on top. Of course, the next stop is the Indianapolis 500, the greatest spectacle in racing. Many stories yet to be told and tests yet to be run as we take a look down through the entire final results. It's been a great day under beautiful skies. And Nigel Mansell now moving to the point standings with his third place finish here. Bobby Unser, you really love that one.
Certainly one of the best races I have ever seen in Long Beach, and unpredictable from the start to the finish.
And Sam, as we said, always electric.
Paul Tracy's 17th IndyCar race has produced a win, and I think we're looking at the beginning of an era where we're going to see him win a lot more.
What a great day and what a great year for IndyCar racing. We're on our way now to the Indy 500. I'm Paul Page. So long from the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach.